Hello, this is Mike Burek, your host and producer of Krynytsia, The Well, a podcast series about topics of interest to Ukrainians and friends of Ukraine around the world. Today is Tuesday, April 14th, 2026. This episode is produced for The Ukrainian Weekly, a newspaper published in English for the global Ukrainian community since 1933. Our guest today is Kateryna Odarchenko, a political consultant and strategist, a partner of the SIC Group Ukraine, and president of the Polit A Institute for Democracy and Development. Welcome, Kateryna. How are you?
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me. I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today. So, if we can start with your education and your professional career, give us some information about that.
Oh, sure. So basically, my business is campaign management. So we organize a lot of top-level campaigns in Ukraine. Before I started this career, because my father also started from business in Kherson, and then he was organizer of Orange Revolution in southern Ukraine, Yuri Odarchenko, and he was honored to represent southern region in Ukrainian parliament. So that's why I get education in political science and moving forward to high-level political consulting. And at free time, we also support think tank Institute for Democracy and Development, and we provide free education for candidates who want to build a democratic campaign, but haven't enough resources to organize it so well as like candidate for presidents. And now we more focus on providing analytical work for SEPA, Atlantic Council, Wilson Center, and other top think tanks in the United States to bring more support and education about Ukrainian situation. So now it's our focus of think tank.
So, when and why was the group Polit A Institute for Democracy and Development founded?
Oh, we was funded it in 2008 or 2009 in Ukraine. So it was started in Ukraine pretty long time ago. We was very young, at that period of time. And in the United States, we was registered as 501c3 only 3 years ago when war generally was started. But we count our history, of course, from Ukrainian roots and our education in campaign management was not only in Ukraine, but also we educate people from Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Bulgaria, Moldova, Georgia, all countries which still have some problems with democracy development and need also Western practices of campaigning and party building to move democracy forward.
When the current president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, was elected in April of 2019, what were the forces that brought him into power at that time? What was the political situation like?
In Ukraine, historically, if you go to any pooling information for 20 years, main problem is corruption. Corruption and, of course, level of affordability of medical service, so poverty generally. And when Zelensky became candidate for president, and he haven't political career before, he was artist before, comedian on TV. All other candidates, including Mr. Poroshenko and Tymoshenko, who, pretty high-level politicians from 2000s in Ukraine, and they was on top positions, they have very big, anti-rating. What is anti-rating? It's when we ask people whom you don't want to elect anyway. And more than 40% of people for both candidates said that no, they old politicians, they corrupted, we don't want them. One more time, we not discuss now, is it right or is it wrong? I discuss this as public perception. And Zelensky team moved very easy message that, yeah, this guy haven't experience, but he also haven't experience in corruption. So let's try this guy. And he was pretty positive because, he was artist and his perception in society was completely positive. And on this negative perception from all other candidates and also additional money and additional access to top TV channels, which he was, cooperate with, he get this success. On my point of view, I will be honest with you, it's not classical party building or political movement. It's more like political project because it was developed for 2 months, but it's pretty typical for Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova in this period of democracy development process. That's it.
One of your areas of expertise is Russian disinformation campaigns. How do these campaigns influence Western governments and also citizens of Ukraine specifically?
Oh, it's make pretty heavily impact. Let's start from Ukraine. So before and even now, like Russian give a lot of money, a lot. I mean, it's like 50, 100 million cash in every campaign for pro-Russian political forces. And what they was doing, they was creating like numbers of pro-Russian bloggers, different political parties, also regional political parties. Like in our region, it was like Bloc of Saldo and other regional political projects. And they also was given direct bribes to voters, like for voting for pro-Russian political parties. And generally, they like make the same campaigns in Georgia, Moldova, Kyrgyzstan, sometimes also in Bulgaria, even in, inside European Union, of course. Mr. Orban and Hungary, very good example of such impact. So it's the same canvas and the same algorithm for every country, and it was deeply, heavily used in Ukraine. On the question of disinformation in internet, like trolls and fake articles or AI generated materials. It's also pretty typical, and they use this tool in Ukraine and outside of Ukraine. Just messages is different. Now, for example, before war, it was message that why you need European Union if you can like work with Russia and Russia will buy more goods and give to you like pretty cheap gas, and it's much better deal than work with European Union. Or other message that nobody care about you, like Ukraine is corrupted, so just take a bribe and vote for this bribe. Outside, it's completely different disinformation campaign now. For example, it's disinformation campaign directly about Zelensky. Also, like a lot of disinformation about corruption. There is corruption in Ukraine. Let's be honest. It's still like country which needs, no, a lot of reforms. But Russians, overestimate that and make huge disinformation that, oh, this like government not professional, so you must not give money to Ukraine for fighting war crimes which Russia did. So it's completely different issues. And they also do a lot of disinformation about refugees, how they behave, because maybe one refugee behave not like 1 million, right? Other 1 million behave very good and it's educated people and they adopt in Europe, no problem. But in Russian disinformation, it looks very different. And in DC, here in Washington, DC, it's much more complicated and much more expensive campaigns, which connect with illegal lobbying, with like the public diplomacy, also with work of KGB, work through Russian Orthodox Church a lot. They work a lot through like opinion leaders from Russian Orthodox Church, and they also target conservatives with this message that it's some pressure to Russian Orthodox Church. We have full reports of Institute for Democracy and Development on this issue, which also connect with heavily involving of Russian Orthodox Church leaders who are under American sanctions now.
What is the state of democracy in Ukraine today? What has been the impact of the Russian invasion against Ukraine on democratic institutions, and specifically on public opinion in Ukraine?
Uh, it's two different questions about, look, democracy it's developing in Ukraine. It's still a young country, and it's very hard to underestimate impact of Soviet Union, who kill democratic process, who was killing also main its intellectual institutions where these political leaders can grow up, So technically people don't know what is real party building, what is primary, what is internal KPI, inside political party, how to do grassroots campaigns. They just didn't know that even now. So that's why it's developing, right? But it's not so hard and bad as, for example, in Kazakhstan, where it's still, authoritarian country. Is war useful for democracy development? No, revolutions was, because revolutions, like, people understand that they make impact, and even if, like, people in government not change so much and reforms not moving so quickly, because it's also lack of budget, right? It was moving. In war, it's completely different situation, because from one side, government must protect them from Russian impact and Russian disinformation, for example, on, like, creating mostly one TV channel. But from other way, it's other, like, problems inside countries that opposition said that it's not like enough rights and representation for them. So as always, it's if we have analytical, like, discussion, it's no direct answer that it's developed or it's have completely only problems. But I think that, of course, war not move in better direction. Also because of social capital, a lot of young educated people with kids and with big families, like more than three kids, they move out of Ukraine, and as sociological research shows, more than 40% of these people adopting in European countries or other countries. And of course, it's a lot of these people, it's young, talented people, and it's a big question what strategy, like, we can use after war to bring back these people. And of course, it's pretty pragmatic answer. It's good salaries and good business opportunities, with possible only with United States and European Union support, of course, because now Ukrainian budget depends heavily on this support, like deeply heavily.
Is it possible to hold a free and fair presidential election in Ukraine during wartime? And also, what about parliamentary elections?
I think that question of free and fair elections, it's not only question of safety on polling space, also in the region like Kherson, like Donetsk region, which of course an issue, if Russians will use ballistic missiles or even shelling, like they use it almost every week in my region, Kherson. Of course, it's not possible to make elections there, right? But a political science question, it's also a question which I already mentioned. It's developing of political party structures and political institutions, and of people who really want to be involved to elections. Like now, on all research, a lot of people want to support veterans. But when we discuss with big foundations from Europe, is veterans ready to build political forces and to be political active? Answer is no. They don't know what is political ideology. They don't know, no, not all, but mostly, if it and they're not interested in, political involving. And it's a question, because if it will be not real veterans, it can be like fake veterans, because society want to saw that. And it can be one more time sires of political projects who, barristers of this political project, it's just people who give money. It will be not like old oligarchs, because they also lose a lot, but it can be also new people who, some of them earn money, in like free and fair way, and some maybe get this money from some other, like, resources, and I see mostly problem in this social capital issue of motivated people, like they was. I remember how my father started to involved to Orange Revolution, and in that period of time, a lot of, like, middle class people who have enough resources to organize this work on the region level, they was deeply involved to political mind. And now mostly these people deeply motivated, they don't do political work, they do volunteer work and charity work, you know. So because it's like more fair and it's directly from Bibles that you must help to people who in need, you know. And political work now they said, okay, I will be, you know, a little more far for that because I can be killed from Russia for this work. And secondly, it's also inner um, no, inside Ukraine also, as you see now, opposition have some issues, and they mentioned that it's not enough media space for them, etc. One more time, you can ask them a little more about that because I'm just from analytical side now in this process.
Kateryna, unfortunately, we're just about out of time, but I do have a
Yeah.
final question. What role do you think Ukraine's veterans might play in post-war elections in Ukraine?
So, as we mentioned, people want to see veterans as political leaders. But before they be accepted in old political forces, which also, you know, not working now. So political structures and this grassroots campaign on local level, on local elections also not work because it's no elections. As you know, political parties was work very good as in the United States when it's always elections, like, you know, every 2 years you must be ready. But we organize some education for veterans, also experience exchange program for them to United States. But of course, you can't make impact if it's 30 people, you know, it must be thousands of people. And I think that it must be also priority for work of American institutions and big American foundations to give political education for veterans and not accept any manipulation of, you know, like image of veteran, but involving people who not really was involved, who just make like one photo, which also possible scenario. And of course, we must fight more with Russian disinformation in the European Union because if they move more people to European Parliament, it also will be much harder to get these resources and money from European Parliament and European Commission, and they pretty heavily working there, and they working in China with China together also a lot on impact in other regions, but it's completely different story. But hope that God will help to Ukraine to choose right people to serve these people in government and parliament.
Kateryna, thank you so much for joining us today. I have been speaking with Kateryna Odarchenko, a political consultant and strategist, a partner of the SIC Group Ukraine, and president of the Polit A Institute for Democracy and Development. This episode of Krynytsia has been produced for The Ukrainian Weekly, a newspaper published in English for the global Ukrainian community since 1933. And I'm Mike Burek, your host and producer of Krynytsia. Until next time, that's all for now.